Well, you guys wanted it? Here it is. This is the video you guys voted for. It's probably for the best anyway. I can just cover Slenderman in about 6 more years, give or take. And besides, if I talked about Slenderman, I would have to talk about the incident, and I do not feel ready to talk about a real life incident caused by a monster yet. So, it's probably for the best this one won anyway. Anyway, today we're talking about the famous great white shark, Jaws. Well, okay, we need to address the name thing. Jaws is an example of people thinking that the title of a piece of media is the name of a character. Like Legend of Zelda or Metroid, franchises like that, where people think that the title of the franchise is the name of the main character. In actuality, in the films themselves, the sharks are never given names. However, the animatronic used to play the shark in Jaws was nicknamed Bruce, so that's what most people think its name is. So that's what I'll be calling the shark. And before you say anything, I put Jaws in the title since that's the name more people are familiar with. It's why I named the Xenomorph video Xenomorphs, and not Alien from Alien, even though that's technically their official name. Anyway, let's get into the video. Bruce is a great white shark who is abnormally large for their species. The shark is described as being 25 feet long, which is 5 more than the currently largest great white deep blue. But even then, most great whites are in their teens lengthwise, with 20 being an exception, not the rule. Bruce is also known to be a lot more aggressive than usual great whites, since while sharks don't consider humans to be a usual prey source, Bruce is known to snack on any humans they come across. Well, rather infamously. The first installment of Jaws was the original novel released in 1974. I'm not actually going to talk about this since the movie is a pretty faithful adaptation. All you really need to know about this is imagine the movie, except all the characters are jerks. A year later, the movie was released, which is what basically everyone thinks of when they think of Jaws. In this film, a town near the beach is being plagued by frequent shark attacks that claim the life of at least 3 people and a dog. However, the mayor refuses to close the beaches since it's peak tourist season, so shutting the beaches down would be financial suicide. However, the attacks become so frequent and public that eventually there's no choice but to kill the shark. As such, 3 guys go out on a boat to hunt down the shark. However, things go very bad as the shark is far smarter than they assumed, eventually killing one of them and sinking their boat. However, brutes meet their end rather infamously after getting an oxygen tank stuck in their mouth, which gets shot at blowing the shark to smithereens, and thus saving the town. Words cannot describe how successful Jaws was upon release. It's often considered to be the first summer blockbuster, and it was the highest grossing movie of all time for about 2 years. Then it got dethroned by Star Wars. And Jaws is often credited for changing the way movies are released. You see, before Jaws, movies were kinda like circuses, in that they would go from town to town, getting released in local theaters before moving on to another town. Like that. However, Jaws was the first movie to be released across the whole US at once, which was very influential because, well, that's still how movies are released today. Jaws also caused massive beach attendance drop off that year, so, yeah. And, while it wasn't the first movie about sharks, it pretty much shaped the genre, and to this day we get about 5 movies about sharks that have some sort of stupid gimmick. Like Sharks That Fly, or Sharks That Are Ghost, or Sharks that go through snow instead of water. By the way, those are all real movies. One of the things that makes Jaws work as a horror movie is the way that it teases the shark. You see, because of the issues faced with the animatronic they used, they decided they needed to find a way to feature the shark without it actually being seen, which led to the famous POV shots and the fact that the shark's not actually seen until it's actually being hunted. This worked beautifully, as after all, nothing is scarier. And it helped build suspense, and the shark suddenly appearing led to quite a shock. Because of its success, it obviously led to sequels, with Jaws 2 coming out 3 years later. This is what we call a same plot sequel, as in a sequel that has more or less the same plot as the first film, but with minor modifications to make people think they're watching something new. Now, the shark in this film is an entirely different entity than the first film. They're not like doing zombie sharks or something like that. This shark isn't named, so I shall call it Betsy. In this film, Betsy is attacking the beach again, so once again they gotta go take it out. Betsy is not blown up, but rather is tricked into biting a power cord, leading to one crispy shark. Jaws 2 received mixed reviews, but it was very financially successful, becoming the highest grossing sequel of all time until it was dethroned by Rocky 2. 5 years later, we got Jaws 3D. For this film, I shall name the shark Mary. This movie was filmed in 3D, and they will let you know that, as basically every other scene features something coming right towards the camera, and sometimes it lingers a bit too long on something. Anyway, in this film, Mary goes to SeaWorld. Yes, SeaWorld. Anyway, Mary sneaks in through a gate that leads into a dolphin pen, and when they notice the dolphin's freaking out, they go to investigate, where they find the great white shark. Since this is SeaWorld, they decide to put it in a tank. But the shark dies because it realized that it's in SeaWorld. So sad. But it turns out that the shark in the tank wasn't Mary, but rather her child. Now Mary is angry because, as we all know, sharks are very protective of their offspring. And she starts sneaking around the park by crawling through the water until she attacks the main control deck. However, Mary meets her end by coming face to face with a grenade, and the dolphins are happy again, and SeaWorld can continue running an orca horror show for decades to come. So happy ending. This film was not well received, with one of the biggest complaints being the atrocious special effects. The most infamous being a shot where Mary just floats towards the camera. She doesn't move at all, she just floats. But the film still made back nearly 5 times its budget, so it was still technically a success. 4 years later, we got the epic conclusion Jaws the Revenge. This time, it's personal. I shall call this shark Frederick. In this film, Frederick kills the son of one of the guys from the first movie, and because of that, the family moves to the Bahamas to get away from the shark. However, the shark follows them to the Bahamas. Yes, I said that. The shark followed them. The shark is seeking revenge for, I guess, killing the other sharks because I guess great whites take these matters personally or something like that. Anyway, Frederick meets his end when he gets stabbed by the hull of a boat and explodes. Yeah, he explodes from getting stabbed. Also, he roars. Yes, this movie has a roaring shark, because as we all know, sharks are famous for their roars. Jaws 4 received absolutely terrible reviews, mostly because of the fact that no one could take the story of a shark seeking revenge seriously, and it was obviously seen as a very stupid plot. It still was technically a success since it made back twice its budget, but they made the wise choice of not continuing from there. Oh, also, according to the novelization of this movie, the reason behind all these shark attacks is because of a voodoo curse. Yes, I am not joking. This franchise that has pretty much no magic or even really speculative elements besides abnormally grumpy sharks now has voodoo curses. Let's just be thankful this was the last movie. Who knows what they would have done if they made Jaws 5? It probably would have been something like Jaws. It probably would have been something stupid like turns out that Jaws was secretly a young megalodon the whole time and then he grows to his full size and now they gotta get submarines to take him out, but then it turns out he's actually explosion proof. So wipes out a bunch of submarines, so they have no choice left but to nuke him. But then it turns out he's nuke proof, and all the radiation turns him into a super mutant, and he attacks China, and then they have no choice left but to blow up the whole planet. But then Jaws gets launched all the way to Mars, and then where was I going with this? Oh yeah, terrible idea. The Jaws franchise also had a few video games. There's Jaws for the NES, which is a game where you spend most of it massacring jellyfish and stingrays to get shells to power up your gun so you can kill the shark. As you can imagine, people say it's not very fun at all. And there's Jaws Unleashed, where you play as the shark and go on a rampage eating anything in your path, including saltwater piranhas, which attack you. Why would a tiny fish attack a creature 5 times their size? Well, they're piranhas in pop culture. What else are they supposed to do? Also, apparently, this city on the coast of the northern United States has both crocodiles and penguins. Emperor penguins, specifically. Also, you fight a giant squid in this game. Yes, a great white takes on a giant squid and wins. This game got bad reviews due to how glitchy it was and the bad camera. Need I say more? Jaws also used to have a ride at Universal Studios. It was a boat ride where you and the rest of the people on the boat with you basically go through a truncated version of the shark hunting plot. Sadly, in Florida, the ride was removed because we can't have nice things. As mentioned before, Jaws pretty much changed how movies came out and revolutionized the concept of a blockbuster. Jaws is also famous for more or less changing the view of sharks in the public eye. Now, sharks were definitely feared before Jaws came out. After all, they've always been the go-to scary ocean animal. But they were never particularly singled out among scary animals. But after Jaws came out, oh boy. The view of sharks completely changed in the public eye. Now sharks were seen as these malicious creatures that are actively seeking out humans. For the longest time, sharks could not escape their association with Jaws. In media, they'll often take a similar pose to the famous poster, or they'll be accompanied by a knockoff of the famous theme song. And of course, like I said, there was a wave of cheaply made shark movies afterwards. But the real life impact on sharks is truly the scariest thing about all this. Because of sharks' reputation as killing machines, nobody really cares about the decline of shark populations. In fact, some people actually seem in favor of their extinction. Shark attacks in particular tend to be very overblown by the news, where if even one person gets attacked by a shark, all of a sudden there's a plague of shark attacks going around, stay out of the water, ooh! And I find this unfair, because no other scary animal has this happen to them. People don't act like a guy getting attacked by a wolf is a sign that there's a plague of wolf attacks going around. You know, on average, about 10 people die a year to sharks. But millions of sharks are killed every year thanks to sport fishing or bycatch or food. So yeah, glad we got our pound of flesh. Make sure to wipe those guys out. It's our world and they're living in it. In fact, Shark's reputation is so bad that even the author of the original novel has gone on record saying that he regrets writing it since he feels responsible for all the violence dedicated towards sharks. And in the last years of his life, he even became a major conservationist for sharks. In conclusion, Jaws is a good movie, but the effect it had on sharks was really bad. I've been Mr. G, thanks for voting, I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.